Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and the wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Hi, hello everyone, and today we are with Jeffrey, and we have a story that will blow your mind in our series of 5 steps how you made your first million, how entrepreneurs made the first million. And we have been doing a series of interviews with successful entrepreneurs that have shared with us the problem, the challenges, the obstacles that they have to overcome. But what you are about to hear tonight is going to blow your mind. So if you can, Jeffrey, please introduce yourself and share a little bit about you.
Sure. My name is Jeffrey Deskovic. I'm an attorney. I'm the founder of the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation for Justice, a nonprofit organization that I started once I made millions of dollars. And the organization's mission is to free people who are in prison for crimes that they're innocent of and to pursue policy changes aimed at preventing that. So far, we have freed 14 people. We helped pass 3 laws and then another 6 as part of key members of the National Coalition Group. It could happen to you. I have a master's degree. My master's is in criminal justice. My thesis is on wrongful conviction, causes, and reform. Last point I want to quickly make is I do work frequently in coalition. So I do want to acknowledge my coalition partners. First, the Right to Remain Silent Coalition, and then also the Restorative Justice International, where I serve on their Global Advisory Council. I started all this advocacy work because I was exonerated through DNA testing after I spent 16 years in prison in New York for a murder and rape, which I didn't commit. I was arrested when I was 16. I turned 17 by the time the trial started. I lost the trial despite the DNA not matching me. The conviction was caused by a coerced false confession, prosecutorial misconduct, fraud by the medical examiner, terrible public defender. Lost 7 appeals, got turned down for parole. Ultimately was exonerated through further DNA testing through the data bank, which not only exonerated me, but also identified the actual perpetrator.
And then, Jeffrey, this is something that I don't know how you managed to turn your life around in such a positive way, because I think that in prison, right, especially for this type of charges, the inmates they become very aggressive because they think that they could be their own daughter and so on. So how you navigate this situation of basically you were so sure that you haven't committed that the inmates could see that in your face, in your expression, and they didn't attack you that much, or was hard there in prison?
Sure. So in general, I tried to keep my head down, not to attract attention to myself. You learn the different prison, survival tactics. So, for example, don't take anything from anyone, don't borrow, don't gamble, don't get involved with, what's being watched on television. When you're in your cell, be in the cell. Don't talk outside the gate. A lot of, if some violence happens, throw your back against the wall, keep everybody in front of you. I tried to identify everybody who was in what gang and who was not. I would study people for a month or 2 before even I would say hello, just to even keep people in arm's length. So you learn those prison survival tactics. But even with that, there were a few situations where people did learn what I was incarcerated for. And I think that by the way I carried myself, it wasn't too hard for them to believe I was innocent. I always showed them the legal paperwork where the DNA didn't match me. So that's how I got by. That having been said, there were some situations over the course of my 16 years where, there was some times I was subjected to violence, but even there, a prison survival tactic, you have to, no matter what, win, lose, or draw, you have to defend yourself. You have to fight back, and you gain respect by doing that.
Yeah, and I think that so what was in the imagine you're going very young over there, right? What was the process from hate, anger, frustration to actually have a positive mindset and turn your life around? How you have done it actually that you decided to. So where do you study law? Do you study law in the prison or just when you get out?
I studied law while I was in prison. So
Wow.
I used to go to the law library because I had public defender at the trial and he really didn't do a good job for me. So I didn't trust lawyers to defend me anymore. Um, so I knew I couldn't be the lawyer, but I figured if I could learn the law, if I could go to the
Mm-hmm.
law library, at least I could be in position to give some suggestions and I could evaluate. Like when they would send me like a draft of a legal document they were going to send, I would look the cases up and I'd give suggestions. So that
Mm-hmm.
was part of it. And I used to collect articles about other people who were exonerated. So I would study who helped them, what route what route did they take. You are correct that there definitely was a mindset issue there. So I had to keep fighting off feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, thoughts of giving up, thinking about suicide. I mean, these things are unnaturally natural to think about in that extreme a situation.
Wow.
But here's the point. I knew that nobody was coming to my rescue. And so I had to hold it together so that I could maximize my chance of connecting with someone on the outside who could help build the bridge between me and the legal help that I needed to do the legal work to
Because nobody's coming to
exonerate
help,
me.
right?
No one was coming to help, so I had no choice but to hold myself together mentally. And so studying the law and collecting the articles, but then also in the later years, writing letters, looking for help, looking for somebody who could help me, not just law firms and nonprofit organizations, but I also thought outside the box. So
Wow.
if I could come up with an action that somebody could take who was not in the legal profession that could potentially set in motion chain of events that led to my getting legal representation. I wrote the letter. I never took for granted that they could understand what they could do. I pointed out what they could do. I made it, seem very easy for what they could do, and that was, that was part of it. So the other thing in terms of collecting, earning the millions of dollars I ultimately got was once I was exonerated, seeking a reputable civil rights law firm to represent me. And I interviewed multiple law firms, and some of them I ruled out because they were not prepared. One of them even tried looking at the legal work I'd sent them in front of me right there during the meeting. So I knew right there that that law firm was ruled out. And so ultimately I did select somebody, but the fact that there was more than one that was interested, I was able to use that in my negotiations, in getting a little bit of a discount. But I want to also say remaining involved, remaining engaged. So I would monitor updates and I would attend depositions that the lawyers were holding of other witnesses. I mean, they would say to me sometimes, my lawyers, oh, well, this is just a minor witness. It's not, you don't have to go. Never mind. I cleared my calendar. That was the most important thing. And I attended all the depositions, and every
Wow.
time I went to court, even minor pre-trial conferences, I attended.
So how you managed to learn all this? Because when you were inside that, you were very young, 16, 17 years old. So how you learn, how like you just shared with me, like if you can put a plan in motion that an organization out there can make a difference and can they can look at your case in the different perspectives. So where this idea come from? Where did you learn that? Because basically you were taken out of the education system really young, and now you are in an environment that you are surrounded by inmates and cops and few books. So how you learn about these strategies, about thinking outside the box in a very confined environment where there is actually very little information? What can you do?
All right. So yeah, you are. So I was arrested when I was 16. You're correct. And I got bailed out. The trial started after I was 17. I lost and I was in the prison from 17 to 32. So in terms of how I learned those things, so we all stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Meaning that we learn from the people that came before us, learn everything that there is to know about something, and then you try to advance and break some new ground. But you do all that first, because why reinvent the wheel if you don't need to? So when I read articles about other people who were exonerated, I learned that they used to write letters to people, and often the person that initially came to their help was not somebody in the legal field. They convinced a civilian who was not in the legal field that they were innocent, and then that person ultimately found somebody. So I tried to replicate that idea.
To follow the process, yeah?
Yeah, and in terms of remaining involved, both in terms of learning, going to law library and staying involved with my case while I was inside, and then later in the civil lawsuits afterwards. So I'm an extrovert socially, but I'm also an introvert. I like to think deeply. I like to draw lessons from the world, lives of other people, and also, most importantly, from my own life. And so I have to say that I was not engaged in the criminal trial when it happened. Okay, I was very young, and I trusted the lawyer to defend me, and that backfired. So I learned from that, and so that was how I figured that out. And last thing is that at times along the way, people suggested things to me. So when I first got to the prison, there was an older prisoner that said, "Are you going to go to the law library? You have a lot of time. You have 15 to life. It's very important for you to go. Look, Jeff, I have a paid lawyer." And he mentioned the name of his lawyer, very high profile. He said, "Look, I don't even rely on him to defend me. I go to the law library and I give him suggestions. And you're not in my position, Jeff. You have a public defender yet again. So you better go to the law library so that you could learn the law, so that you could give suggestions, so that you could know what's going on in your case." So I think my point is being able to spot good advice from people that have been down the road from where you are, even if they didn't arrive at the total place, but they're in process. If they're a little bit further than you are, then that's somebody that you could that you could learn from.
So basically, all these lessons that you managed to turn the situation around, which is a huge adversity, as we all can see, these are the main steps that you follow after you get out to start the organization that you do, which is a non-profit organization helping people, but I still managed to turn over $1 million. So so what are the steps? What are the steps after you got out? Yeah, that you work on yourself. That the 5 key stones the 5 steps that you did that actually turned the whole situation around, and you are now in a very good position, right? So
I am in a very good
step
position.
number 1.
Yeah, sure. So starting back in the prison for a moment, look, I didn't waste my time. Okay, meaning that I got GED, I got associate's degree, I completed year towards the bachelor's when funding was cut. I learned to type, I took computer repair, I did general business, which pertains to various applications of the computer in workforce. And then I took class on how adults learned. I worked as teacher's aide, I worked in food service. So everything I from 1998 to 2006, I read 3 or 4 nonprofit books, nonfiction books. A week. So I guess what I'm saying, I didn't waste my time. I learned a lot that way. And when I was released, I got scholarship to finish bachelor's degree. So I did that. I tried to go to law school. I couldn't get in. I got the master's degree. So from a top 10 school. So that way I could demonstrate when I tried again for law school, hey, I can do graduate level work. I did work as individual advocate. So from speaking to, I became a columnist for a weekly newspaper. I decided to trade awareness. I figured out, so normally when you get exonerated, there's like a short 5 minutes hit of fame that you get. And then you don't hear from the people no more. Okay, so that used to frustrate me in the prison when I would read about that. And then the people were like, why don't you try to help the rest of us that are still stuck in here? So when I unexpectedly found myself free, I said to myself, you were critical of other people, but now it's your turn. Do better. Show them how it's done. And so I figured out if I can have a new storyline, something new, it's a new media hook. It's a new media opportunity. And so I'm still relevant in the news 18 years later. So I did that. And then I got involved with meeting with elected officials. And then when I finally got some compensation, I decided I wanted to take my advocacy work to the next level to try to directly free people, hence using some of the money, start the organization. We had the success I mentioned. But at some point, I became not satisfied with sitting in the front row of the courtroom. I want to sit at the defense table. I want to represent some of the clients. I want to make some of the arguments, hence making a second attempt at getting into law school. I got there. I graduated. I think my key there was, look, I wouldn't take no for an answer. Okay. I had my goal, and
you knew that you were getting out of there no matter what. So you
no
didn't
matter
stop
what. Listen,
studying and prepare
sometimes I
yourself.
studied around the clock. Sometimes I study until like 4 a.m. I went go to sleep for a couple hours and get up again at 6. And if that's whatever it took, I mean, I had to myself the mind. Sometimes the path to heaven runs through hell. Okay, so whatever I have to, I'm going to leave it all out on the field, to use a sports terminology. But I also want to say that I'm in position to earn millions of dollars more. Okay, because I got the law license, and that was another thing. Was I saw how the lawyers, they take a third in the conference. Why? I used to send cases to them, and they would make money, but I'm not a lawyer, so lawyers can't share. Can't fee share with non-lawyers. It's an ethic in the legal profession. So I thought also that was also part of my rationale is, I mean, why can't I earn some money from this? Why can't I get the law degree also? So I have it set up, and look, I copy paradigm of other organizations in the field. Some people, they have the nonprofit organizations, they free people, they don't charge anything, it's pro bono. But then once the people are exonerated, they're going to need legal services on the back end to get compensation. So I have my law firm, and I help people get compensated afterwards. I partner with more experienced lawyers. They put the money up. They do most of the work. I do some of the work, but they do most of it. And I monitor to make sure that everything is moving along. And I give suggestions at key times. I maintain client reports. So I have that paradigm set up.
Yeah, I think that the most interesting thing is that number one, it was your mindset, right? So you were there, but in your mindset, you never stopped studying because you knew that you will get out of there no matter what. But then the interesting thing is that the second biggest step that you took is, like, as soon as you get out, you didn't give up. You came back to society, and rather than like we were discussing earlier, mourning and complaining for what happened, you took action. You keep studying. You're trying to get your degrees, to finish your qualification, and after, yes, you started the business, and like you said, we share with us, is it's been successful, and you're helping a lot of people. But that is not just enough. You have take the fourth step, which is work with other organizations and go personally to defend the people. Yeah, and at least I think that the most important thing is that everybody deserves a fair defense, right? We don't know
100%.
who's guilty or not, but what we know is that is they have the right, to be defend to the best of the ability. And the other thing is about the stereotypes and the bias, right? So basically, when something happen, the people are angry, and the easiest way is to find who's guilty, as soon as possible. And as soon as you can blame someone, that's it. That the is everybody, the family, everybody around have a sense of relief. But if
Sure.
it's fair, will have been proven that it's not. Yeah.
Sure. Let me comment on that. I agree completely. The way that you were able to get all that and articulate so fast and digest was great. I completely agree. I want to put a little color to that. Firstly, in terms of in terms of context, the National Registry of Exoneration from 1989 forward, there have been 3,518 people exonerated in the
Wow.
U.S. And in
That
New
much?
York, where
Wow.
I'm coming from, in the Bronx, 349 people have been exonerated, which is another way of saying all those people obviously were wrongfully convicted. But remember,
Number
that
is
is
high,
just the
yeah.
people. Those are the people who made it out. So this happens a lot more frequently than what we realize. You are correct. There is public pressure on police to make an arrest, on prosecutors to get a conviction, and that way they make the community safe. But what happened is that when they cut corners, when they, coerce false confession, or they use a faulty lineup, or, they use a lying informant, maybe even give the informant information that they're going to then testify to, that can leave the actual perpetrator free to strike again. So that happened in my case. The actual perpetrator was left free while I was doing time for his crime, and he unfortunately killed a second victim 3.5 years later. So someone lost their life behind what happened to me. And so that's really the public safety aspect. You are correct that when the wrong person is sent to prison, it is not just devastating for them, but also impacts the family, keeps the society dangerous, as I mentioned. There is like a
Do you think there has been an improvement since the last
Yes.
20, 30 years? What has
Yes.
changed?
Yeah.
That
So
people like you are fighting and
yes,
taking a
more
different position, or-
organizations have developed. More individual advocates like me are fighting. In addition to that, the advent of DNA has allowed a lot of people, including me, to be exonerated, but it also opened a window into the justice system. So now we have an unassailable pile of data. You have the cases that ended in DNA exoneration, so you can extract what the patterns are. So from that, we know now that coerced false confessions happen in 29% of DNA proven wrongful convictions. We know that 71% misidentification. We know about bad lawyering, prosecutorial misconduct, lying informants. And so with knowing that, best practices have been developed and tested through social science experiments. So we know what the causes are, what the patterns are, what the changes are. And there is definitely movement across the U.S. State by state to pass legislation aimed at improving these deficiencies. I would say that have definitely laws passed, a lot more left to go. Like there's no state that has addressed all the deficiencies. So one state might have something, they're good in terms of their interrogation procedure, but they don't have all the best practices in place for identification. So while it's definitely improved, at the same time, people could still fall into those cracks even now. DNA only available in 10% of all serious felony cases.
Would you say that an advance in technology have actually helped to?
Yes, well, DNA, yeah, for sure, DNA, and then
Because
DNA itself has improved.
it didn't exist the DNA when you were convicted, right?
Well, it did exist, but they didn't have the DNA data bank didn't exist, meaning that before they could test DNA material and compare that to a particular defendant, a particular suspect. They did that. It didn't match me, but the improvement, it pertains to like the DNA data bank. So we went from being able to say that it didn't match me to who it actually did match.
Ah, wow, wow. And that's a huge advantage. So, do you think that that what else can be done? And because at the end of the day, I think that your example, your story is amazing because it's an example of forgiveness. It's an example of being a leader. It's an example to rather than mourn, complain, drink or go to depression because of what happened to you. You took the different route, and you decided to move your life forward. You decided to become a role model. You decided to inspire others, and you decided to make a difference, to make sure that whatever is in your power can be done. So if at least one person can get exonerated, one person doesn't get wrongly convicted, you dedicate your life to that mission, which is beautiful, and probably that's why you are successful, and the people around you. So what do you think that do you think that the leaders, that the leadership skills that you have, they started at the moment that you get into prison, and from day one you said, I'm innocent, I'm getting out of here no matter what, nobody's gonna fight me, I'm gonna fight with everything I got, I'm not going to give up.
Yeah, it all started with that. Look, I'm innocent. I'm going to get out of here. Yeah, 100%. And then doing all the preparation, like I said, studying law, studying cases, pursuing formal education inside. So that was definitely part of it. So in terms of what could be done to prevent that, so we did help pass, myself, my colleagues in the coalition group, It Could Happen to You. We did pass a landmark bill, meaning the first of its kind in the country, called Commission on Prosecutor Conduct. So it's an independent oversight board that can investigate allegations of misconduct. So we're trying to pass that in California also, but I think that the proliferation of these commissions is an important thing because it can serve as a deterrent to prosecutorial misconduct. Also, videotaping interrogations from beginning to end, so there could be a complete and accurate record, whether there was threats, whether there's coercion, does a suspect really volunteer non-public facts, or are they given the information by law enforcement that they then regurgitate? Passing best practices in terms of identification procedures. We need to have more money put into public defense. So it's not unusual for one public defender to represent 100 people at the same time. So to look at it like a college student, what if you had to do 10 classes at the same time? You know, so we have to put more, you have to put more money into that. And then I want to also share, you mentioned forgiveness a couple of times, and I want to share, my first week home, I was angry. The first week home, I was angry, and at the end of the week, I realized, this anger is destroying me. I want to enjoy my life as much as I can, and I got that from reading nonfiction books on self-help. And so I said to myself, I want to enjoy my life as much as I can. I can't do that if I'm angry or bitter. Look, I've already lost so much as it is. Why do I want to, in effect, lose the rest of my life by being angry or bitter? It's not like God would be negatively impacting the people involved in what happened to me. If I was angry or bitter, I really would be the only loser in that scenario. And the vehicle that allows me to actualize that is I take that energy that I feel and I channel it into the advocacy work. It makes a difference. It's healing. It's cathartic as well. It's inspirational to people, and another thing is I feel like it allows my suffering to count for something.
Yeah, it's interesting because the more you're trying to help other people, the more you help yourself, right?
It's true. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. That's true. Yeah, exactly. It's healing. I feel better. And then I think about like the steps I took, like when I got the bachelor's, I got the master's, I got the law, each law degree beyond those credentials helping me towards my goal. Just the inside, how I felt so much better about myself.
Yeah. And also, you see, it's very, very fulfilling. It doesn't, when I think that fulfillment comes to make a difference in other people's life, right? And I'm sure that the people that you're working with, they're very grateful because they have what you didn't have, right? So when
Correct.
they're talking
Exactly.
to you, you can see in their eyes and say, "Look, I know that you're grateful, and it's fine, and it's okay, and I'm here to help, and I'm here to do the best, and you see what you have there, I didn't have. That's what I do this job, and I think that
Yes, that's all part of it. Yes, for sure.
and
Yeah, for
it's
sure. Yeah,
healing,
that's
yeah.
and then they all have an extra level of confidence because they know that I was where they were
One of
before.
them, exactly,
I
yeah.
was one of them, and they know I'm going to take I'm going to take the extra. I'm going to go the extra mile. I'm going to go the extra step.
Exactly. So I think that the point number five of your journey is become a leader. Become a leader and make a difference in other people's life, and don't turn the whole situation in bitter and negativity, which is something that we say very easy, but after so many years in prison and you get released, and the first week that you're out there, that you arrive to your home, that you see the people, all you have is anger, and you want to blame people, and you want to uh, to ask yourself why this is happening to me, why this happened to me, why me, out of everybody out there, and probably it happened to you because somebody have to take the leadership and make a big difference in the law system, so this situation don't happen again. So sometimes our journey, we don't know why things happen to us, but if out of the negative situation, out of the obstacle, you manage not only to build and grow a business, but become the source of inspiration for change, I think that this is a huge legacy, and I'm 100% sure that you're not gonna stop working, you're not gonna stop studying, you're going to keep going at it with everything you got. Yeah, probably we need some help from you here in UK also. I will ask some questions to see how is going the topic here, but UK and United, well, I'm based here in London in United Kingdom. Every similar problem that there is in US is happen also here in United
It,
Kingdom
it,
in
it
some
does.
form. Yeah.
It really does. And that's a nice segue to the next point that I wanted to make. My dream is to ultimately have a chapter of my foundation in each state and ultimately in each country.
Would be
I see
fantastic.
this
Yeah.
as a worldwide problem and
Because imagine if this will
con,
happen in
con,
US, imagine in other countries. It's
yeah,
gonna be worse, no?
exactly. So I think like, in US, if politicians of all political parties are able to raise tens of millions of dollars with what they refer to as small dollar donations. What if there was 25,000 people that were willing to donate $3 to $5 a month on recurring monthly basis on our Patreon page, with the graphic of which is behind me on everyone's right? Who would miss $3 to $5? But if all people many people were doing that, that could make a big difference, and that would allow us to add additional infrastructure, lawyers, paralegals, investigators, other essential personnel, work on freeing more people, expand into other states, expand into other countries. So I wanted to just share that with everybody. I wanted to give two tips.
Go for it.
For your audience, your entrepreneurs. I have some general things, which has nothing to do with wrongful conviction, but does have to do with the goal of making £1 million. So,
Go for it. Share
okay,
them.
thank you. So one thing you kind of hinted at it, but I want to explicitly say it. I would like people to think about my story, think about my journey, and I've had people that tells me, I was feeling down. I'm a business owner. I have this issue or that issue, or I have this life situation, that life. But when I stop and think about your story, it puts it all into perspective. It makes it all much, much more manageable. So my point is, you could look at my story or any other extreme situation And I think it can put whatever obstacle, whatever challenge, whatever difficulty into a new perspective, and you can, take stabs at overcoming whatever challenge in the entrepreneurship. So perspective, keeping everything to where it's all manageable. Can do. Okay. And then my universal formula, I've thought about that from my time in prison all the way up until, now, and dealing with all the challenges, including, it wasn't all roses when I was released. I had to deal with psychological after effects, social stigma. You were in prison for 16 years. Wrongfully.
Nobody want to give you a job, right?
Did it rub off on you? Was it safe to be alone someplace with you? Having to repair relations with my extended family who would never come to see me to learn the technology. GPS, cell phones, internet hadn't been created. Culture different. Wow. Cities and towns different. Cumulatively feeling like I'm in a parallel world. Always pass over for gainful employment, lacking stability of housing, at one point being a couple of weeks away from homeless shelter. So, and just being straight lonely. So I don't know
how you pay your rent. How you pay your rent when you get out of there if you don't have a job, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Thank God, Mercy College, they gave me scholarship. And then when I lost my temporary housing, they let me stay there. There was a nonprofit organization, Human Development Services of Westchester. And it was not because I was wrongfully in prison. It was because I met the mental health diagnosis of clients that they would help. So they would pay the rent. I would give them 30% of whatever it was that I made in a given month. So, wow. Getting help along the way, but always working towards the goal, always making the decision to try to level up, try to keep going. And that allowed that. So my point is I had difficulties on the outside also. And so from prison to the difficulties outside to where I am today, which we've talked about, which is 18 years later after being freed, here's my universal formula. So look, have a goal. Okay. Number two, have a realistic plan, meaning you should be able to look at it 3 or 4 different ways and say to yourself, well, yeah, I could see how this might work. Because who wants to carry out a plan if you don't think it could work? 3, be flexible. Remember, the goal is the goal. The plan is not the goal. The plan is just the way to get there. So you have to be flexible. If an unexpected door or opportunity opens for you that's still taking you towards that goal, you have to be flexible and accept it. Go through it. No excuses. There might be reasons why something is more difficult for you, yes, but it's nothing you can't do if you don't, which is the 5 thing, work very, very hard. Okay. And then lastly, never ever give up. And then once you make it, reach back and help someone in the same position you are in. We're on a show talking about making £1 million entrepreneurship. That will be the goal. But when you cross over, when you make it, reach back for someone that's in that same starting position that you were. And help them get started. Share your wisdom, share your knowledge, mentor, help in any way that you can.
Yeah. Wow, fantastic. I think that these are really, really inspiring words. And I have to applaud you and congratulate you because I think that leaders, it doesn't matter what happened to them. They find the strength and they go there to serve and to make a difference in people's life. And I think that I applaud you and I congratulate you for the excellent job you're doing. And if the people listening this podcast, they want to know a little bit more, they want some help, how they can reach you guys, how they can get in contact with your team. What are the websites? If somebody in UK, for example, has an issue, how they can seek help?
Sure. So to learn more about me, there is a documentary short. It's 21 minutes, hence it being called a short. It's called Conviction. It's on Amazon Prime. Certainly, people can learn more about me on the website. Very easy to remember. www.deskovic.org. There is a web form there. people can email me through the web form, but also on social media, Instagram, Deskovic Foundation, on Facebook, my name, Jeffrey Deskovic. I have the personal page, which is public. I have the public figure page. I just copy the stuff over because it's not so everybody can keep up. The Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation has Facebook page. I'm on LinkedIn. There's also TikTok, so people can learn that way. And if people need help, again, email me through their website. I mean, what I can do is there are innocence organizations in UK, in Europe, so I can refer people to those organizations, their website and everything, and they can look for help that way. But also, I can share, this is how you put together an attention-grabbing letter about a case. My name is, I was wrongfully convicted of, my sentence is, the evidence against me was XYZ. What was flawed with the evidence? XYZ. Mention a couple facts in the record that suggest you're innocent, suggest any investigative routes, and then you conclude, look, I'm writing you because neither I nor my family has any money to hire an attorney. I'm hoping you will consider my case pro bono. I have documents that I can share with you, which I'm not sharing right now out of respect for your time. So that's it. The more you write, the less likely it is anyone is going to read it. You're not trying to convince anybody to take your case in one letter. Okay. All you want is to generate a thought in someone's head. Well, yes, if what Harry just told me is true, then I could see why he might be innocent. Let me look a little bit more into this. That's all you're trying to do in that letter. So I can help people formulate the letter as well and explain how to go about looking for help in a systematic way. And look, if any of the entrepreneurs out there, if you're successful, if you make it, listen, remember the Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation for Justice, and look, it donate. Yeah, it unfortunately takes money to try work on these cases, and I'd love to open up a chapter, in the UK. So that'll of course be when the public support allows for that.
We're here to help.
Entrepreneurial lesson that applies to the foundation, right? Expand as you have the capacity to do so in a sustainable way. So please, people, think about to donate as well. If you work for a corporation and they have corporate philanthropy, just suggest us, just put us on their radar. That's how most things happen. It's not usually that somebody in a gatekeeping decision-making capacity hears something. It's that a regular person hears something and makes a suggestion.
And with that note, we are going to conclude our podcast. Jeffrey, has been an amazing interview. I think that our audience learned a lot about being grateful for life, about forgiveness, about don't give up, about resilience, about helping other people, and definitely leadership. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining us. And for all of you looking and watching the series of podcasts that we're doing, how successful entrepreneurs make the first million, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So stay tuned, because more stories to come in our next interview. Thank you, and bye for now. Bye, Jeffrey. Thank you so much.
Bye, Harry. Thank you.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.